What's up everyone, and welcome back to the Bold and the Beautiful 24 official channel. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button today. Let's get started. Brooke is in peril, but Thomas won't let her intercede with his parents. Thomas Forrester might seek Brooke Logan, according to the Bold and the Beautiful. Brooke appears to be the target of Thomas's latest outburst. Does Thomas's meddling actually put Brooke in danger? Taylor Hayes vs. the Logans. In the past, the Logans have plotted against Taylor Hayes. Even though we know that Eric Forrester isn't a Logan, he likes them and occasionally gives the impression that he is. Since Steffi Forrester is out of town, Thomas is the only person who genuinely supports Taylor. Thomas is only back in town for one reason. Ridge Forrester's tendency to waver between Brooke and Taylor is well known. Even now, after Ridge resolved to make amends and saved Brooke's life. But Ridge has had plenty of time to make the necessary repairs. Why does Ridge still waffle? Personal issues are affecting Thomas Forrester. Thomas has acknowledged that he ended his engagement to Paris Buckingham. Thomas claims that Paris didn't comprehend why he was so angry over what his mother had done to Liam Spencer. Thomas, however, has made it clear that he cannot bear his parents' decision to call off their wedding. As usual, Brooke was interfering, Taylor informed Thomas. Clearly, Thomas always places the blame on Brooke. Thomas is completely unaware of how much Ridge is to blame for this problem. Get genuine, Ridge is the issue. After declaring his love for Brooke, the man flees to his fiancée. Here, Brooke is not the issue. All Brooke wants is for Ridge to fulfill her promise. The truth is finally seen by Thomas Forrester. While Taylor waited for him to select a wedding date, Thomas calls out Ridge after spotting Brooke in his arms. The entire family is depending on you, so don't break Taylor's heart again, Thomas advised Ridge. After that, Thomas intends to prevent Brooke from ruining his parents' marriage preparations once more. Does Brooke Logan face peril? It's clear that Thomas is losing his mind once more. Thomas pursued Hope and even made false claims about her baby's survival the last time this occurred. Later on, though, isn't Thomas the one who pretended to be Brooke and made the phony CPS call? Douglas Forrester outed his father on this, right? Now, what will Thomas do to harm Brooke's reputation with Ridge? Could Steffi and Thomas work together to prevent Ridge from hurting their mother? Despite having informed Taylor that he cannot marry her, will Ridge still be compelled to carry out this wedding? To what extent will Thomas go to prevent Ridge and Brooke from becoming partners? Is Brooke Logan hostaged by Thomas Forrester? Taylor Hayes genuinely wants to marry Ridge Forrester, according to the Bold and the Beautiful, but her son Thomas Forrester is even more eager. Thomas becomes hopeless. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why Thomas knows Ridge Forrester is reconsidering his decision to wed Taylor. After returning from Italy, Brooke had an awkward encounter with Thomas Forrester right after boarding the plane. Brooke is not going to heed her daughter's ex-wife's advice to distance herself from his parents' relationship. Spoilers for the Bold and the Beautiful indicate that Ridge Forrester is under pressure to make a choice quickly. His two ex-wives want him to commit or kick rocks because they are tired of his ambivalent behavior. To ensure that Ridge selects Taylor and does the I-dose, Thomas traveled back to Los Angeles. Additionally, he will do everything it takes to ensure that there is a Tridge wedding. Brooke continues to press Ridge. According to BNB teasers, Brooke Logan is playing with fire and will keep harassing Ridge and pressuring him to call off the wedding. Thomas will be pursuing Brooke as soon as he discovers she is using her powers on his father. Eliminating Brooke from the picture is the best way to ensure his parents get married. She also won't leave voluntarily. It is well known that Thomas has a history of violent outbursts and unhappiness. In fact, Brooke Logan might be in grave danger. Will Brooke be harmed by Ridge and Taylor's son, or will he even abduct her in order to salvage his parents' wedding? One of the most complex characters on The Bold and the Beautiful has always been Thomas Forrester, a man torn between dark, compulsive tendencies and brilliant creativity. However, the soap opera is now featuring him as the main storm that threatens to engulf the delicate equilibrium that Ridge Forrester has attempted, and failed, to preserve between Brooke Logan and Taylor Hayes. As Thomas grows more desperate to control his parents' fates, Brooke herself may find herself staring into the abyss. In the most recent arc, fans may wonder if Brooke's safety is at risk and if Thomas is about to descend into a place that reminds them of his darkest schemes, as the story starts not with Brooke plotting to take Ridge away, as Thomas insists, but with Ridge himself, who has rekindled the old love triangle by vacillating between the two women who have shaped his life. Although Ridge has promised Brooke that he wants their love to last, he has also given Taylor enough hope to keep her holding on to the hope that a wedding is still possible. Thomas takes advantage of this tiny opening with obsessive fervor, returning to Los Angeles determined to prevent Brooke from ruining what he imagines should be a picture-perfect reunion for his parents. However, the truth is, as usual, more complex, as Ridge is the one who is unable to make up his mind, having declared love to both women. In Thomas's mind, Brooke is the eternal saboteur, the seductress who dangles her charms before his father and ruins Taylor's happiness. This obsession has gotten to the point where Brooke is more than just a rival in love. To Thomas, she is an impediment that must be removed at all costs. This begs the horrifying question: could Thomas really hurt Brooke in order to keep his parents married? Ridge is the one who ran away from commitment until pressure mounted. Before that, Thomas terrorized Hope with his unhealthy obsession, even going so far as to manipulate her through the fake mannequin and the devastating lie about Beth's survival. The show has deftly planted breadcrumbs leading to this possibility, reminding viewers of Thomas's history of deceit and aggression. Not too long ago, Thomas was the mastermind behind the CPS call scheme, digitally manipulating Brooke's voice to frame her and poison Ridge against her. This scheme was so pernicious that it destroyed any trust that Ridge and Brooke had left at the time. Given how his world has once again fallen apart, his engagement to Paris Buckingham ended abruptly, his professional footing at Forrester Creations is precarious, and his relationship with his son Douglas is still plagued by past betrayals, it seems both plausible and inevitable to longtime fans that Thomas will target Brooke once more. Since Ridge's heart is broken in ways that no amount of manipulation can completely mend, Thomas's drive toward this goal is doomed, but the more doomed it gets, the more dangerous Thomas becomes, which is why Brooke is now in danger. This leaves Thomas with nothing to cling to but the belief that if he can just secure a reunion with Ridge, everything will fall into place, his family will be whole again, and his mother will finally be happy. Brooke, on the other hand, is not a woman who backs off easily, especially when she knows Ridge loves her. In recent episodes, she has persisted in pressuring Ridge to resist the pressure from Thomas and Taylor, reminding him of their shared history, their children, and their numerous reunions. As Ridge falters, Brooke becomes more confident, and this is exactly what Thomas cannot stand. To him, Brooke's persistence is evidence of her selfishness and a calculated plan to crush Taylor's dreams, and he tells himself that his interventions are justified, but in reality, they are becoming more menacing because he has been spotted shadowing Brooke. When Thomas starts muttering that Brooke needs to stay away from Ridge, fans can't help but shiver with the memory of his previous breakdowns because the subtext is clear. Brooke might not have a choice in the matter if Thomas gets his way. This is because viewers of soap operas are aware that these are the classic visual cues B&B uses before a character spirals into a violent outburst. Thomas follows her at Forrester Creations and confronts her at moments when his eyes flash with barely contained rage. While kidnapping is extreme, it is not beyond the realm of soap opera reality. After all, this is the genre where lovers rise from the dead, children are swapped at birth, and villains lock rivals in basements for weeks on end. Therefore, the idea of Thomas holding Brooke hostage until Ridge marries Taylor is both outrageous and completely appropriate for the melodramatic tapestry of the bold and the beautiful. Fans are already discussing how such a twist could unfold. This is the most terrifying speculation among fans. Could Thomas really kidnap Brooke to prevent her from interfering? Would Thomas entice Brooke by pretending to be a mediator and then imprison her in a remote Forrester estate? Would he drug her the way he drugged Liam when he was obsessed with Hope? Or would he just employ coercion, using Brooke's wish to stay out of trouble as leverage? Every possibility increases the threat and brings Thomas one step closer to being a villain. However, this arc has an additional element that makes it more captivating: the impact it would have on the remainder of the canvas. How would Ridge respond if Brooke were in danger at the hands of Thomas? Although Taylor loves her son, she could never tolerate violence, and having to choose between supporting Ridge and protecting Thomas could break her in ways we have never seen. Ridge has always carried guilt for Thomas's darker choices, blaming himself for not guiding his son better. If Thomas were to harm Brooke, Ridge would have to face the consequences of his own indecision and failure to choose between the women who love him. Hope, who has long been suspicious of Thomas's instability, might insist that Douglas be kept away from his father, reopening previous custody disputes and igniting the conflict between the Logans and Forresters. As a result, Thomas's quest for family unity would ironically cause further divisions, which would heighten the tragedy of the story. The show has also been careful to incorporate the symbolism of Thomas's increasing isolation. Steffi is away, Eric is sick and preoccupied, and Taylor, despite her support, appears to be blind to the intensity of her son's emotions. As a result, Thomas lacks a real check on his impulses and no one to stop him before he goes too far. When soap characters lose that support system, the stage is set for implosion, and Brooke, who is always radiant and defiant, becomes the lightning rod, the woman who won't give in, and in Thomas's fevered logic, the one who has to pay. As a result, viewers are not only curious about whether Brooke and Ridge will reunite, but also whether Brooke will survive Thomas's interference without getting hurt. The genius of this plot ultimately resides in its ability to combine decades of history, the Logan versus Forrester conflicts, the never-ending Ridge love triangle, and Thomas's history of obsession, into a single narrative thread that feels both new and inevitable. As the weeks pass, Brooke will be in greater danger from Thomas's schemes, as well as the chance that Ridge himself will ignore the warning signs until it is too late because Ridge, in his perpetual indecision, frequently fails to recognize them until disaster strikes. The question for viewers is not only whether Brooke will escape Thomas's wrath, but also whether Ridge will finally break free from the pattern that has destroyed so many lives around him. If Brooke is truly in danger, then not only will Thomas bear responsibility for allowing the toxic cycle to continue, but Ridge will also be held accountable. If Ridge does not, Thomas's dissent may claim not only Brooke's peace of mind, but also her freedom, safety, or even her life.